let's get Shabbaz in here. Hopefully I'm saying that right. No pronouns given. Is a theist and wants to know a couple of things: where atheists get their morals, and why does the average atheist seem to be so disrespectful and condescending about their beliefs? I'm going to pass it to Seth about whichever one you want to answer on that, man, or both.
Well, let me hear the question in your own words, Shabbaz. What are you thinking?
For starters, you all are pronouncing it properly. It is Shabbaz. And what I said there exactly was, where is it that any individual atheist draws their sense of morality from?
Well, I see evolved ethics as making really good sense. I don't need a third party. I don't need 10 commandments. I don't need an objective standard bearer to tell me what is right and what is wrong. I can understand and have evolved an understanding of pro-social behaviors, right? Our ancestors, the primates on the African savanna, those of us who engaged in pro-social behaviors, cooperation, even empathy towards others, we were then safer. We were able to create communities, aka tribes. We were better at procuring resources and warding off threats. Mm-hmm. Our survival rate increased when we engaged in ethical behaviors. Now, certainly there are exceptions, but we know what harm is. We know what pain is, we know what suffering is, and we know what it's like for others to experience that as well. And I think it makes perfect sense for evolved primates to not only understand, but be able to participate in those types of ethical systems far beyond any kind of religion.
Right. Well, that makes sense to me, except I would ask you, and I'm sure you've probably heard this question before, then it comes to agreeing on what is right and what is wrong. Because like surely, to one individual, stealing something might not be wrong if you don't get caught. And to another one, it's wrong regardless.
Well, I understand the imperfection of, so I don't know if there even is such a thing as objective ethics, but you and I both understand harm. We understand what it's like to feel pain. We understand antisocial behaviors. Yeah. Largely, we do. Yeah. And if someone was to come out and say rape and murder are wrong, I would say that the vast majority of human beings, evolved primates, would already know that that is incorrect. We would understand and recognize harm. I think the larger implication of your question is this, that you and I wouldn't know this if we hadn't been told or if the standard had not been put in place by some other somewhere. Are you part of a specific religious tradition? Do you believe in a certain deity?
I'm a Muslim.
So it's Allah that was given you the standard by which you would know right from wrong. Mm-hmm. So if I know right from wrong and I don't believe in Allah, where did I get the information?
Well, the Muslim would argue that right from wrong, that's your opinion. And I'm sure that what you would say is right from wrong, or some of the things that you would say are right. I'm sure the Quran would say those things are right. Some of the things you would say were wrong. I'm sure you would say they are wrong, because it's like you said, it's not like we don't recognize right from wrong, recognizing when we cause others pain and so forth and so on. It's just no standard. Nobody has to stick to any of those things, and they can all become subjective instead of objective.
That's not true. I mean, you and I live in social contracts where human beings have put together a literal structure for ethical behavior. We have rights and wrongs. We have do's and don'ts. We have laws that can be made or broken. And so, we've actually done a pretty good, it's very imperfect, but a pretty good job of constructing restraints for those who are engaging in antisocial and even destructive behaviors. But I'll tell you, you could say that Allah put that standard in place, and then the Christian would say that Yahweh put the standard in place, and someone of another religion could say it was their deity that put that standard in place, blah, blah, blah. All of you, anybody who makes that claim about a specific agent with a proper name, especially one with supernatural powers, is going to have to meet an exceptional burden of proof, right? So where is the proof that Allah is responsible for our moral standard?
Yeah, the individual is. I personally, I can't give you proof. I can only tell you what's proof to me.
Well, no, but prove it to me. I mean, what good is it if only you can prove it to yourself? You think you're proving it to yourself, but you can't demonstrate it to anybody else.
Yeah, it's like if you wanted us to accept some view that we have to first accept the law or whatever God's existence first. I mean, me and Seth are just going to like pull the cord on the bus and get off when we're not being told anything that, you know, convinces us or even anything at all. So it's important to get us to your position, right?
If I believe in God Y or God Z, and I say, look, I know God Z put the moral standard in place. I know it for sure, but there's no way for me to prove it to you.
Yeah.
How convinced would you be?
Man, I wouldn't be convinced. Somebody telling me that there's no way to prove something to them or to me, then I would have no reason to be convinced. But it's like I said, though, I can't tell you what's proof to you because we don't necessarily see things the same way. All I can do is tell you what is proof to me, and then you can do with that what you will.
I think proof is proof. You know, if gravity works for you, it works for me. It works for Mike. You know, I'm just saying.
No, but proof. Yeah, but proof is not proof though, because everybody doesn't think the same, see things the same, and feel the same way about everything. So something that is proof to me, I could tell you that a woman buying me flowers is proof that she loves me.
I think that's confused though. No, I think it's, well, I mean, look, we might disagree. And there might be issues of like rationality, like someone who's like locked in a box their whole life and comes out of it or something. And like, you know, if they didn't know what water is or they made some error in reasoning, we wouldn't be like, they're systematically irrational. Like obviously we would, you know, you can take things into consideration about people's upbringing and how sheltered they were and that kind of stuff. But so, I mean, like, I agree that like there might be this, you know, spectrum of what somebody might or might not accept versus you. But if we're looking for anything, just something, like just one thing. Like try us. Maybe we have the same proof detectors as you do. So just try us with it.
Yeah, that's possible.
But
yeah.
I do.
Well, the reason that I believe, in
real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Creator.
This is actually just for show's sake. I'm going to let you finish. I do apologize, but I got to get Seth out of here because Seth's got. We got to be considerate to his time consideration. You are most kind.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
And so I want to say thank you to everybody. Forgive my early departure. John's going to do an amazing job. Mike, it's always good to see you work, my friend, and good luck with the rest of the call. Okay.
Yeah, you too. Have fun, man. Have fun.
All right, bye.
All right. Sorry, I wanted to be considerate to Seth's time consideration. So, but sorry, go ahead.
I understand and appreciate it.
Yeah.
I understand that and appreciate it.
Cool.
So I was going to say that, well, for starters, the reason that I believe in some kind of creator in the first place is because I don't believe in luck, chance, or coincidence. So I don't believe that an entire universe and an earth full of life and this reality that we exist in, I don't believe that it could have come about by luck, chance, or coincidence. And then the reason that I believe that
I don't think it did either. So I don't think it did. I don't think it came by chance either. So I'm an atheist. So I mean, this is a kind of a weird way to go about this because there's going to be so many views that an atheist can take, and you would just be, you know, if I'm being charitable and saying you're knocking them out as you go, which we're not. You're just kind of doing this thing where you're focusing on someone else's view. But, you know, imagine we show all the reasons for atheism. You know, there's no good reasons here. Well, you still have all of your work left ahead of you about which specific God, you know, maybe it's kind of like the Christian God, but maybe it's not at all like the Christian God. Okay, that's not very clear. So let's just do it this way instead of having to, like, you know, go one by one. We, you know, kill all the little birds with one argument stone or one proof stone or something, right? What is like and don't worry about like it, like it's a dialogue, right? So don't worry about like if I think it sucks or something like that. I just genuinely want to know what it is that convinced you. right? What is the thing that you hold on to and you go, yeah, it's really hard. And if it's going to be something like, well, I can't see it in this other way, I might stop you, because that to me is like, that's just like personal incredulity, right? That's like, I can't imagine X, so therefore it's Y. And that's fallacious types of reasoning isn't really interesting to me. So what's the reason why you believe in Allah specifically?
Yeah, I was coming to that. I was saying that.
Okay, sorry.
That was the reason that I believe in a creator at all, and the reason that I believe that Allah is that particular creator is because of having first lived 28 years of my 28 years of life up until the point that I reverted to Islam and then read the Quran, and then it was ultimately Quran that convinced me.
What about the Quran? The Quran convinced you? I've never said the Quran like that before.
A few things. One thing is I come from a Christian background, and when I started reading and studying the Bible, that led to me rejecting Christianity real quick. And then every issue that I had with the Bible
hold on.
Cleared up.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I'm trying to understand. So you were a believer, and you read the Quran, and it showed you all the stuff in the Christian faith was false? Why? First off, why think it's true? That's the part I'm trying to understand. Why think, like, I can write a book and read a book. I can write a pretty crappy book, I don't think the religious books are particularly good books, so I can write a book. What next? Like, it's not just like that it's in a book. Like, you can give me some type of like content from the book, and that this thing was what convinced me. Yeah. But look, dude, for starters, my bad about that, because I do have a real roundabout way of talking, and you did ask me a direct question, and I didn't start answering it directly. You're good. No worries.
Like I said, excuse me for that, and now let me try to answer it directly.
Sure. Okay. Apologies to you as well. I have these conversations a lot, so it's like being a taxi driver that gets cut off all the time. You get a little bit more annoyed than probably the random guy that drives down the street because you deal with it all day. So apologies.
Yeah. I can dig it. So there's a verse in the Quran, for instance. The Quran has falsification tests, for instance, and there's a verse in there that says basically that if this book is not from Allah, then somebody just creates something like it, and then that will prove that it's not from Allah. I mean, so and then of course that challenge is only for the Arabic speakers, because of course you have to understand Arabic to be able to create something that's written in Arabic. But nevertheless, that challenge has been running for 1,450 years unmet. It's got those prophecies fulfilled in there. Yeah.
Shabbaz, I'm just kind of curious. What's the criteria for trying to determine whether or not you could accurately impersonate one of the multiple authors of the Quran?
Well, there aren't multiple authors of it anyway. There's only one, and the criteria is that's it. Well, it's like I said, for starters, you have to understand the ins and outs of Arabic. And one thing that Quran did was introduced a new word that the ancient Arabs.
Wait, I have to speak Arabic to know to be able to be a real believer? Is that, I'm not understanding.
No. I said maybe this wasn't a good example for me to bring up, because like I said, it's that you have to understand Arabic in order to even be able to meet that challenge. Not that you have to understand Arabic in order to be a believer.
Okay, so Shabbaz,
things that are true.
Shabbaz, so I'm not even asking about the Arabic. I'm not. Let's just let's talk about this from the perspective that the person who's trying to reproduce it or trying to impersonate the Quran knows Arabic and everything like that. What is the criteria for determining between the Quran and this impersonation? Like, does it just not sound similar? I'm assuming that you don't. Maybe do you think that God literally wrote the Quran, or do you think that man wrote the Quran for God? Because there's a big difference there.
It sounds
the Muslim believes that Allah spoke the Quran to the angel Jibril, and the angel Jibril recited it to the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, and the Prophet, upon whom be peace, recited it to man. So we think men wrote it down. We think it was a revelation from the Creator.
So man wrote it. So I mean, if man wrote it, then we can easily impersonate like somebody. I mean, there's ghostwriters out there all the time that impersonate authors. Yeah. I mean, hell, I could queue up Chat GPT, give them the entire Quran, and just tell it, impersonate this, write similar verses that say something new, like don't fuck 8-year-olds, like that. What? That would be 9-year-old. She was 9-year-old, right? So it's like I could totally write a verse.
Yeah, somebody tried that with Chat GPT. A Muslim did, and it didn't work. And as far as the being able to speak Arabic, hold on. I'm sorry. This is all blowing by me real quick. I'm trying to pick up the pieces as we go. This sounds like inherently question begging. Like, do you know what I mean when I say that? Begging the question? Yeah. How does it sound like that? So, like, the thing in contention seems to be assumed here, like, right? Like, it's parasitic on me accepting this thing. Like I wouldn't if I already believed the conclusion that you have, like, then yeah, great, right, whatever. But you wouldn't have to convince me. But you're trying to convince me. So the thing in contention, right? It's like what you're saying is it has to, like, be like this thing, but why think that thing hosts truth in the first place? If you just are saying, like, if I try to rival this text with some other text and you just say, but it's not the Quran, and just assume the truth of the Quran to begin with, then it just sounds question begging to me. It just sounds like you're assuming the thing in contention, right? So, like, what I'd like to ask is why, like, what is the content of the book that's truth revealing, or that states propositions that are true, that would like rationally commit me into believing that a law exists? Because we're just skipping over, like, the actual, like, semantic content, the stuff that, like, I need to sink my teeth into to understand. What are these, like, true revelations in there that I would look at and go, yeah, fucking a law exists, man? What is that? Yeah. So I'm not trying to convince you, because it's like I said from the start. That's fine. I'm just trying to ask you what it is. Don't worry about me being convinced. Most people aren't convinced in a conversation between an atheist and a Muslim, and a lot of times it takes progress, or they have to reflect on it and stuff. They don't have the expectation that you're going to convince me right away. Maybe I'll think about this tomorrow and it'll convince me. Who knows, right? Yeah. But I can't ever be convinced if you don't give me these answers. These are the things that, like, one way to look at this is you're talking to somebody that you could, like, save their soul or bring them to your view or whatever. Now, there's a requirement for you to do something for that to happen. If they ask you, like, a question, it seems like that's the thing that they need in order to believe it. It's in your best interest to try to answer that, because that's what they've kind of spilled the beans. They've kind of told you, hey, man, this is what would convince me. Like, I'm asking these questions because they're important to me. And so what I'm asking you is why think that the things revealed in there are truth tracking or true propositions? And if there are those things, what are they? And how do we know that they're true? Yeah, but man, I feel a lot more respected than the last time I called this line. But I really would appreciate, though, because like, y'all ask me a lot of questions, and then I'll be on the verge of trying to answer one. I'll be on the verge of trying to answer the question. Yeah, but the reason why I cut you, the reason why I interject is because I'm like asking you how your day is, and you're like, Tuesday. That's why I interrupt you. And also, I talk with a lot of theists throughout the week. My ability to predict that they're not going to answer the question is pretty good. It's not always good. I mess up, but I'm pretty confident if I let you go on, what you are not going to do is give me some proposition that's stated in the Quran that's true, and the method how you know it's true. And the reason why I want to get there is because I want to know if we do this real big circle back to the beginning, which is what I predict is going to happen. Yeah. So, one other thing, other than the challenge that's been running for 1,450 years unmet, other than that, Quran says things. Are you answering me right now? It's not clear that you. Are you stating something? Okay. Yeah. I was saying. Other than the challenge that's been running unmet for 1,450 years, the Quran also has information in there the questionable about how anybody at all, let alone an illiterate man in the middle of the desert, could have possibly known. For instance, they talked about the bee, a honeybee storing nectar in one of its stomachs. And that's, of course, something that we didn't know until until we invented microscope, until human beings invented microscope. So,
John, is that enough content is that enough content for you to chew on? It doesn't sound like he knows the story that is very convincing and amazing, but he's like, it's like the bees and stuff. Like if this was like revealing me, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's kind of like the bees in the desert. And the guy,
y'all asking me about a book. Y'all asking me about a book that has 300 some odd pages in it.
A book that you dedicate your life. A book that you dedicate your fucking life to. I would expect a little bit more than there's a guy in the desert and how could he do the stuff with the bees and the honey. That's fucking what you said, dude. Okay, if I held something really if I had this really cherished, heavily cherished belief, I would hope John would have a talk with me and be like, bro, that dude asked you and you started saying a guy in the desert and bees and honey. What the fuck? What was that answer? I'm asking for a legitimate answer here, man. If you don't know the own text, how am I supposed to be convinced when it sounds like you don't even know the text you're supposed to be defending? Oh, sorry, unmuted.
Again, I'm not trying to convince you. I know it quite well. And once again, I'm not trying to convince you. Like I've been saying the whole time, I'm telling you dudes what was convincing and what was proof to me. And these are the types of things that was proof to me. And also, it's like I said, man, the book is a few hundred pages long. It's easy for you to just listen to any one thing that I say and then say, oh, this is the problem with that, or that is the problem with this. But
vague thing, generic thing, vague thing, generic thing, vague thing, generic thing. Right. No content.
Shabbaz, I still have yet heard, like, going all the way back, I guess. Let's try to hyper focus in on this, right? What is your criteria for actually distinguishing between somebody that just made shit up and says that Allah wrote it versus the Quran? Like, what's the criteria? Is it the number of verbs used? Is it the frequency of verbs? Is it the distance of one word to another word? Does God include, like, I know that there are random letters or words or something at the beginning of every of every book or whatnot, but I mean, I could fucking write that. So I'm just trying to get a sense of what is the criteria that you're applying to other people that have tried to impersonate the Quran and has been proven to fail this supposed test.
Explaining earlier where that particular thing is concerned, one of the things that Quran did was introduced a new word. And actually, I can't remember if it was every chapter or every verse. I know it was at least every chapter. It introduced a new word that the ancient Arabs were somehow didn't know but were familiar with, and they found that stunning. That was one of the reasons that they couldn't replicate it. And it's like I said, that's just one thing. This is a whole book that we're talking about, though. So it's like I said, it's easy to just take any one thing and say, yeah, well, this is what I think about that. But that's just what you think about it, though.
The way something is written doesn't
can I ask my second question?
No, well, we can get there. But the way this is just really bad logic. The way that something is written says nothing about its truth. Like the syntax of how something is written says nothing. Now we get into the semantic content, right? Now you could have like a bunch of gibberish that I could ask the speaker, like, hey, it's not clear what you're saying. Are you saying this? Could you rewrite it? And they explain it to me and then be like, oh, that is a true proposition. You're saying it rained on Tuesday. Okay, yeah, that's true. Right. So you can have this varying degrees of like legibility, or maybe you need further inquiry by the speaker because it's not really well written. Maybe it's like amazing. It's like written so well and it's garbage. It's a lot of philosophy. Right. So I don't really know this criterion of like it has to replicate this thing. Why the fuck should we care about replicating it in the first place? What that assumes that there's something like true or useful. Maybe it's a utility thing. If it's a utility thing, I'm not interested in. Right. This is like the lucky socks in my drawer.
The point in being able to replicate it is that if you could do that, it would prove that it's not from the creator. That's the challenge. If you could replicate it, then just anybody can.
That's question. It's just seemingly question begging. The thing in contention is whether or not this was like God inspired, something that lends credit to being like God in any way. Now, one thing that's not clear on the table is what the semantic content is that's like so profoundly amazing that we couldn't replicate it. We just have this vague thing that there's the Quran and it can't be replicated or whatever. I don't know why I should care about it being replicated without some demonstration that the thing should be taken seriously as like a device for truth, right? This just seems like I'm getting these vague things that I could say about any other book, that it was written this way. Only this book could come up with a really good trinity that confuses the ever-living fuck out of people, and they debate about it, and that's part of the virtue. You know, I can do this stuff all day long and just go, it's not this thing. It doesn't replicate this thing, so those things can't be true. But that's assuming that the thing that I'm holding up is true in the first place. It's question begging. It's assuming the thing to be true. That's the thing in contention. I could never believe.
It's not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it is question begging, because it's not assuming. I don't think you need to assume that the thing is true in order to be able to replicate it. You can just replicate it to prove that it's not true. Like I said, that's the whole challenge.
But then you could just try to give me the content that I'm looking for, right? Like, in the Bible or something, it's like, oh well, someone's gonna tell me that we know that Jesus rose from the dead because these people detail their experiences and the 500 witnesses, right? Now, crappy arguments, but there's something for me to chew on and go through. I can talk about how, well, there's only this one guy writing about the 500 people. We don't have 500 different accounts of it, or we can systematically go through it. But it sounds like you're like purposefully avoiding putting something on the table, or that you don't really know the contents of the Quran, because when you tried earlier, you said something about the desert, the bees, and the honey. Now maybe there was a misfiring of words there, or, there's nerves, but I'm trying to give you several chances either to give me that, or just, answer what was asked of you to begin with, the criterion in which you would use to determine whether or not this was written by, someone in accord with God, or God itself, or divine person, as opposed to someone just making the shit up. Sorry, Johnny, if you want to get in, I can't understand what I'm supposed to sink my teeth into here.
No, yeah, I'm going to let Shabbaz respond to you, and then I do have some notes on the whole bee thing, because that's not anything magical or like novel that was produced by the Quran, but we can handle that here in a second. I'll let you respond to Mike there, Shabbaz.
What is it you asking me again? You said a whole lot.
Yeah, I just want some type of proposition, statement that could be true or false, right? That's in the Quran, or set of statements that are very convincing to you, that you think raise the probability that God exists rather than not existing, right? I'm putting that like a low bar. I'm not saying prove it deductively, just raises the probability that it's more likely than not, right? I don't think that this low bar can be met, and so that's why I'm asking you.
No, I don't know. I don't even know if I can answer that question, because I didn't read the Quran and then start believing in Allah. Like I was already a theist before I ever read the Quran. So there was nothing in there that made me believe in a creator. I already was a believer.
Sorry, I should have used my language more specifically and said Allah. But yeah, I can see how you have the interpretation. I'm not saying like God in general. I understand you've been a theist because you were a Christian before. But what I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't want to hog up John's time, so I'll just. I don't think I'm gonna get the thing that convinced you. It's just I get this vague stuff that you read it, like the way that I interpret you before I pass it off, Shabbaz. I apologize if this comes off offensive, but the way I interpret is that you read it, you felt ways about stuff, and now you believe it. But I don't know what the feeling ways about stuff is, right? That's what I'm trying to get there, right?
I mean, you are exactly. I mean, you could have. That's. No, I mean you pretty much hit that nail on the head if you just vaguely describe it something. Yeah, I read it. I found things in there that I thought were convincing, and that's what led me to.
Notice what you just said to me. Notice what you just said to me. If you vaguely put it that way, that's been my problem the whole time, because I'm just repeating back to you how I've interpreted you. This very vague. That's what. If you listen back to the call, I've said the word vague probably 15 times. That's why I phrased it in the way that I did, because that's how I'm interpreting what you're saying. It's very vague. There's nothing. There's nothing of substance.
If you want to, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, if you want to, I didn't mean vaguely. I couldn't think of the term I was looking for. I mean, if you want to give something the shortest explanation, I couldn't think of the term that I was looking for there.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to tell y'all, though, is that it's not just, it wasn't any one thing in there. You know, so like we could have the conversation about any one thing that grabbed my attention the whole time and talk about that all day, but it's not just one thing, it's a plethora of things. You know, it's like there's all kinds of stuff that led to my holding on to it after because I didn't even read the Quran before I reverted to Islam. I reverted to Islam on a concept, and I was ready to reject Islam if I had the same problems that I had with Christianity.
Well, I hope we get there one day.
But I guess my claim then would be that the things that you think are novel about the Quran or are spectacular about the Quran are not really all that spectacular. So like, just take the bees reference, which I think, if I'm not mistaken,
that's that one thing that you have. That's one thing that you have, though. That's one thing that you mentioned have.
It. Hold on. Well. So, sorry, Shabbaz, you mentioned the bees, and I just want to use this as an example. I'm not saying that, that this should represent everything. I'm just saying I have a sneaky suspicion that for any novel thing that you could pull out of the Quran that you want to say is, oh, they wouldn't have known this at the time, it's going to be very poetically and metaphorically like driven and everything like that. So like, if I'm not mistaken, you're talking about Surah 16, 68, and 69 in particular. And in the Quran, it actually says, your Lord inspired the bee, take for yourself homes in the mountains, the trees, and what they raise up. Then eat of every fruit and follow the paths of your Lord made smooth. From their bellies comes a drink of different colors in which there is healing for people. So like, that's the one, am I correct? That's the one that you're talking about?
I said, yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, so this, for one thing, is a lot of poetic language in here and is not as specific as we would like, the Lord to be in this particular case, because this is a flowery description of where hives are built, bees that collect nectar, and honey as being useful. And all three of these were obvious to any 7th century person at the time. Honey healing.
I don't think you can say what was obvious to.
Egyptian medical papyri list honey in more remedies than any other single ingredient. So it was definitely known that honey heals and stuff like that. And then the bellies, that's just a description of the fact that they witnessed bees regurgitating the honey coming from their from inside of them. And then them building hives in mountains, trees, and whatever else people raise. I mean, that's just them looking around and noticing where bees build shit. So like, none of these things are like spectacular that 7th century people, especially in the Middle East, wouldn't have known about. So nothing here is novel. Nothing here would indicate that God gave special knowledge to the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah. Well, one thing is, I don't think anybody can say what would have been obvious to any people, and especially over long periods of time ago.
I'm sorry,
and then also,
Shabbaz, this is the big distinction here, and I'm sorry to cut you off so quick after I just stopped, but I literally cited Egyptian records that for the most spectacular part of this, and that's I guess that honey is useful for like healing and shit. Like, there are records prior to the 7th century of people knowing that honey is used for like healing, for its healing properties and everything. So like, this isn't just some that
people didn't know that.
No, they literally knew. They literally used it prior to the 7th century CE.
Yeah, man, I'm not saying that people didn't know that that honey had healing capabilities. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the description that it gives of it keeping its nectar, the nectar in its belly. Now you can say that, well, man, those people saw the thing collecting honey from flowers, so it was obvious to them that the nectar was in their belly. But like I said, I'll argue you anytime what was or was not obvious to even a person who's standing right next to you, let alone some people thousands of years ago.
So you're telling me that a seventh century person, even before that, just studying bees, because bees were studied prior to the 7th century, they noticed that bees consume nectar, right? And then they also have to get that out. They regurgitate it out of them. So like just them knowing that they have stomachs, they assume that bees also have stomachs. They consume the nectar and then regurgitate it out. Like this is nothing fantastical. And in fact, we didn't even know about the separate bellies that bees have, like one for honey and another one for other stuff. We didn't even know about that until the 17th century. So like they definitely did not describe it in the Quranic passage that we read. They just said bellies as if talking about a population of bees in general, not like they have multiple bellies. They wouldn't have known that, and they don't describe that.
Well, I didn't say that it said they had separate bellies and kept it in one of them. That's not what I said. I just said how it kept the nectar in its belly at all. But my response to that is, you can say that it's obvious that somebody had a bee and saw that it was collecting honey, so it must have been in its belly and it must have regurgitated. I would say that they didn't bear witness to any such thing, and they could have just as easily thought that the bee was carrying the nectar or whatever it collected in any other way.
Yeah, can you prove that outside of your own? Outside of your own appeal to your own personal incredulity, can you actually prove that? Because this is the second time you've now committed a fallacy of personal incredulity. It's not very interesting. I can't. No, I can't prove to you what they thought. Just like you can't prove to me what they thought. Okay, so then why do you think you're justified in saying that? What gives you the right? Why did you have the audacity to think you were justified in saying that? I'm glad. I'm thank you for admitting that you can't.
Why do I think I'm justified in saying what that they didn't know?
Well, you just told me that you're not justified in it, but you still thought it was true. And what I suspect, because this is now the second. This is now the second. This is I'm sorry. This is now the second time that you've, probably more, but the second that I've been able to detect that you said I can't imagine this thing that way, so it must be the other way, which is just to commit a fallacy of personal incredulity, right?
I can't imagine something being one way, so it must be this way. I never even implied such a thing. I just said that just like you say it was obvious to them, I could say something is not obvious to somebody who's standing next to you. I don't think you can argue what was obvious to somebody outside
you said
of yourself.
No, they didn't do that. You said no, that they did, that you don't think that they did do that, right? I mean, Godless, did I not hear him correctly? Right? Did he say no?
Yeah.
Then I don't think they did.
Then we asked for justification. Then we asked for the justification, the proof, or whatever. Look, proof's like a pretty generic word that can be used in multiple different ways, but everybody understands what we're saying. We asked for proof. We're not saying like give me a deductive argument. We're saying like some reasons to believe that it's true, some justification. That's the thing we're all interested in here. And you said you couldn't, which by the way, I appreciate. I think that's very honest of you, right? I think you sound like you're trying to be honest in the cases that you are, right? But when you get to these weird spots where I'm like, okay, you're admitting, though, that you don't have the justification, but you think it's true. I just wish you would zoom out and notice your own personal incredulity, because people do this all the time. They're like, I can't imagine it that way, so it couldn't be, or it has to be this other way, right? And when faced with a reason, there's nothing left on the table other than that the reason is fallacious. There's no good reason. There's a fallacious reason.
This is what I'm confused about. This is what I don't understand. You keep saying, I'm saying that I can't imagine it being another way, so it must be this way. I'm trying to understand what you are getting that from, because I'm very open-minded. I'm a very open-minded individual, I think, and I'm not saying that.
Oh, let's walk through the dialectic again. Let's walk through the dialectic again. You couldn't. I'm not saying that you're saying the words I can't imagine, right? The form of committing that doesn't
I
require
understand
like
that. Yeah, you said
doesn't
understand.
require like a specific like the specific semantics, but this gist of what's being expressed, right? Which is that I don't have I don't have the justification for X. I can't believe that it's X. That's when you responded, no, they didn't do that. And so it's this other thing, right? It's a miracle. It's the God stuff.
No,
That's literally taking the exact form of I can't imagine it's X, so therefore it's not X or it's Y, right? It's the same form. I can change the words out. I speak a little Hindi. I could try to say it in Hindi. It doesn't matter, right? It's what's going on up here that matters.
What did I say that somebody didn't do?
You said...
Well, no. So if I could clear this up, you said that there's no way
they knew that.
You think that they didn't know, like the 7th century authors of the Quran did not know about bees regurgitating honey. But I mean, I just did a quick search and it says Aristotle wrote about it in 350 BCE. Then Pliny the Elder wrote about it in the 1st century CE. And then there are some other Roman manuals in the 4th century CE. So like there's multiple times in the past where they have written about it.
They wrote about bees regurgitating honey.
Yes, Aristotle in 350 BCE.
If they
you don't think someone could observe that? I just don't ever understand the Quranic like prophecies and these miracle things. Like they're always so weird to me. It's like the waters don't mix, and it's like, well, they do, and technically they do, but. Even if not, you don't think someone could go there and just look at it and go miracle? Because that's how all of these come off to me.
What I was trying to say is that if somebody wrote about bees regurgitating honey, before it was written about it, but then again,
it doesn't matter if it was written about it or not. It would be impressive if they were locked in a box their whole fucking life and said right here in the Pacific Ocean and the bees. But they're not like that. They can go walk out their I guess not a door, but they can go walk outside, right? Wherever they are, they can go walk outside and fucking observe it. If you like bees that fucking much, you can observe it. You can watch it. You can spend time. There's not some atheist principle in the world preventing you from doing that unless a law gives it to you. What the fuck? I'm sorry, you sound like a nice guy. I should not be yelling towards you, but the stuff going up here is frustrating the hell out of me. I don't understand how you can think like this and think it sounds good, like that you have justification for what you're saying. Maybe we don't play the same game of justification.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, man, that's the perfect segue into what my second question was, and I wanted to ask it a long time ago because I don't know how much time y'all have for just one individual. But
yeah, you want to know why atheists are disrespectful and condescending, and the reason why I'm disrespectful and condescending to you is because I'm giving you several chances. You replayed this call. I was very nice at the beginning. I gave you several chances to give me the semantic content, the propositions, the bearer of truth, the thing that's there that's going to make me believe it. I told you it was vague several times. You didn't do that. It's frustrating. So let me give you an analogy, right? Someone that someone had mentioned this and I thought it was brilliant, right? You go out outside, you get in your car and someone cuts you off. You can get a little pissed off about it, right? You're going to pull into wherever you're going. Man, that kind of pissed me off, whatever. Now imagine you're like a taxi driver or an Uber driver, and you go around getting cut off all day long, just constantly cut off, right? I mean, some people might get numb to it, but a lot of people are just like, God damn it, this happens all the time. People suck. These people suck. And so when you do stuff like what me and John do, me and Godless, we go on TikTok and talk with it could be 20 theists in a day, and then 20 the next day, and then 20 the next day. So it'd be we could talk to 100 theists in a day, and then we're constantly going over. So if you want to know why some atheists get pissed, it's because we feel like we lend this rope to you, and we're like, come on, come here with us, and you're just like, nah, I don't want it. It's really frustrating to try to go through a dialectic with somebody and ask them for reasons why they believe. And then what they do is just like, oh, well, there's the bees and the stuff. And it's like, bro, there's no way the most important question that could ever be answered to you is this vague. I would be telling somebody a fucking book about. People can't shut me up already. If I believed in God, I would never shut the fuck up. I would be telling everybody about it. and giving the reasons and going, no, you were rationally committed to this. Sorry. That's why I'm frustrated. Now, I don't think that's generally the case for most atheists. Most atheists will try to work with you.
Yeah, man, dude. If the situation were vice versa, and I were talking to the atheists about their beliefs, because I think the same thing about the atheists that they think about me, but I would still not ever address them like that with a bunch of screaming and hollering. And even if I was frustrated, just because I'm an adult, man, I can just be mature and respectful, even if I'm in disagreement.
It'll make a good short that will make more people's eyes get on it, and then they'll honestly start answering these questions. So if I have to yell and scream and put on a little bit of a little show at any point, that's fine, because the content that I'm saying out of my mouth is not something that I don't hold dearly, right? I hold this very dearly to me, right? This is something that I dedicate my time to. I don't do anything in this realm that pays me to do any of that. I like to do this, right? But if I can talk to you in a way and put that in a package and understand how the world around me works, right, and understand that people like to be entertained and stuff like that, I might ham it up a little bit, right? Because that's going to get more eyes on an important conversation, and one that I think is more important right now than ever. So if you want to get mad that I scream and shout, that's fine. I think it's going to be more beneficial that I'm asserting something to you that you should actually take in stride and listen to, right? And then other people can judge that for themselves. No. I really don't care what people think about me. I care about the content that I say and if they agree with that.
I'm not really upset about it. I just don't think much about it. That's all, because I think you could accomplish the same thing.
I am upset about it because it affects people around me. So I am upset about it.
Yeah, I can dig it. But man, I was gonna say though, and man, it's a reason, dude, that you have to be more patient, because I was in the process of conceding on a point, and then you had your bloop session. What I was about to say is,
I'm not really interested in the meta, so we can just go to John, or you can give the reason, because we're just going in a circle. I don't really care about the meta anymore. Right? You wanted to ask some meta question about what is the average atheist. You don't have statistics to show that the average atheist does that. You don't have case studies to show any of that. There's no data hierarchy system of this case studies, we should listen to that more than these. You don't have anything like that. You're just doing some generic things. This isn't even a serious point. I gave you more than I should have even given you, right? So, John, if you want anything you want to say.
I wasn't talking about...
Well, yeah, so sorry. I was going to say, on the whole idea of on I guess the general demeanor of atheists, I had to say that I've had very unfortunate encounters with Muslims out there for no good reason. I mean, I run a Facebook page where I've got over 130,000 people following it, and whenever I do post criticisms of Islam, I get messages that are just deplorable. I don't know why some people are so quick to go to, oh, well, I'll fuck your mother after I rip her insides out. It's not normal shit that gets thrown my direction whenever I levy a criticism against Islam or Muslims. It seems to me they go all out with the weird fucking insults and stuff. I don't really see that coming from the atheist side all that much. I mean,
you should see my DMs.
Yeah,
I mean, death threats I've gotten just by talking about someone's religion. You should see it.
Yeah.
It'll really shock you.
And I think that
you really just answered that question for me, though, because and I think this is good. This is why it's good for people to talk and have conversations. No telling what you might learn. Because for starters, I wasn't just talking about atheists in general. I wouldn't put everybody in the same category like that. I was just talking about atheists that I've known and I've dealt with personally. But somehow, as well as I was already familiar with this, it took me hearing you to say, I mean, well, Muslims do the same thing to me. I've never heard anybody say that before. It took you to say that for me to realize that the answer to that question of why the atheists like that is the same answer that I have to so many questions. That atheists are human beings. That's why it is.
Or
That's
not.
why some of them are so condescending and disrespectful, because they're human beings, and human beings are. I mean, we vary from one end of an extreme to another.
That's fine. I agree.
Answers that question.
Sure, I agree. And then the first one I didn't answer for you is that where atheists get their morals, and we can, we're getting close on time, and I wanted John to be able to speak on this, so I want to hand this to John if John wants to answer this, and because he wasn't here for this first part of the call, so.
If you want to answer that, oh, it was the other guy. Yeah, but
I can answer. I can answer either. Yeah, I didn't answer either, but I want to. I'm talking too much. I want John to go first.
Sorry. What was the question again?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you. That's right.
Where does the individual atheist draw their sense of morality from?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I mean, I draw my sense of morality from secular humanism. I apply that, to my daily life, and I pretty much just, do what's best for my family and my community and the human beings in general. Like I put human health and well-being above, supernatural well-being or supernatural wants and needs, and it's it can be a complex situation of give and take and everything, but I feel like secular humanism provides us with the best model for building a society, and so that's that's what I use to come to moral conclusions.
Yeah, I see. And man, I think, and of course, it's anybody would argue, but man, I'm 43 years old. I've been living in this country my whole life, assuming that we are all in America. And man, having read my book cover to cover and studied it much, man, I guarantee you, if this country was being run by what Quran said, it would be a much better place than it is. Because human secularism.
So we should.
I'm so sorry.
Women. We have reasons to beat women with like a hair comb, right? Is that your view?
I guess. Or I guess maybe
should we deploy Anissa 34 amongst women in your view? That's what you think's better for them? Get the fuck out of here.
Say that again?
Yeah, before I drop your ass, what I asked you was, do you think that we should legislate something very similar to Anissa 34? Man, you dudes are fucking
clowns. You're not going to talk to me like that, then I'm going to answer a question that you asked.
You know what's awesome about this? I can mute the fuck out of you. It's really easy to do that. You like that? You're on mute. So if you want to run like a coward, you can hide. I'll give you a second. I'll unmute you. But yeah, you said something pretty deplorable, right? First off, the irony of you asking where I get my fucking morals from, and then like, I think what's the best thing to do is have the thing I believe in that oppresses women and allows reasons to like beat them. And Anissa 34 is like good shit, man. It's real good. That's what I think. You're a clown, and you dropped. You're a clown. Like, you asked about this about my morals. Okay, does it really does it matter to you where I even get my morals? If the thing that I'm going to be doing with my moral system is treating your mother better than you treat your own fucking mother, fuck yourself.
Yeah, I feel like there are Islamic theocracies that exist out there, and I think that we can use those as a pretty good model for how a society run by the Quran or by Islam would actually function. I mean, that would include, executing people in the LGBTQ community. It would include imprisoning atheists like us. I mean, it would be pretty bad. I mean, we're facing, a Christian nationalist threat now, and that is of similar extreme that would take similar extreme measures.
Yeah.